the various certificates you can see there on the screen, so they are on the website. You can click on each of those and go through to the specific page which tells you all about it and how to enroll and how much you have to pay and so on and so forth. So I've just talked about that already. So we still think that e-learning is, particularly in our industry, bizarrely enough, because it's quite a technologically advanced industry, has yet to convince many HRs, so human resource people, and particularly management outside of the UK, I think. We often hear the argument, well, if I pay 250 euros for one of my staff to take the European Advertising Certificate, what happens if he leaves in a month after that? And you think, well, you know, that's a risk you have to take. But making an investment in people has huge benefits. So the questions that they ask is, how do you ensure that the learners will complete the learning? Because we can't force them to. They sign up, they pay the bill, they have weeks and weeks to learn, and then they have an exam on a fixed day where they go into somewhere central and they all sit down and write out the exam for 3 hours. Should we allow them to work, to study at work, or do they have to do it in their own time in the evening and weekends? How do you assess their performance? Does the learning need to focus on information that the learner needs, or does it need to assess the learner's abilities to process that information and apply it to their day-to-day jobs? I think in the case, we've gone down the route in the certificate of information that they need to know to be effective advertising agency personnel. It also relies very heavily on technology, obviously, so it's a good fit for young professionals because they can do it on their mobiles, they can do it on their iPads, they can do it while they're traveling, so it's very easy to drop in and out of the courses. But it might not be the answer for everybody, and I'm sorry if there's anybody here from the medical industry. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on your ability to use technology, but then you can see that there will be older people, perhaps like me in another industry, who might say, well, I'm not sure I want to do e-learning, I'd rather have someone come and teach me something. And it's a big investment. It requires a learning platform. It has to be constantly updated. You need an online tutor to manage discussions, because there are a lot of questions asked. And you need a lot of administrative time to deal with subscriptions, requests, technical errors, problems, all sorts of things. So this is no light undertaking, but I think you can't shake the future. It's definitely coming, and that's what needs to be done. So for us, we want to expand our online training, and we're intending to do that because we don't have the resources to develop all our own material. We're going to do that through partnership with bigger players. So the thing with Google Squared was just a start. We don't make any money out of that particular partnership because Google don't offer discounts, but it looks good to have Google Squared on your training portfolio, and people are kind of impressed by it. We now want to go for things like Facebook Blueprint. There are some programmatic and mobile Google masterclasses that we want to add, Digital Ad Traffic Academy, and so on and so forth. So there are plenty of opportunities for us to add things to that. And now we've also been running webinars for a couple of years. So we do a webinar a month for 2 blocks of 3 or 4 months a year, university term time, generally speaking, where we get an expert to come in and talk about some aspect of commercial communications. They are variably popular, some very, some not so. And a lot of the problem there is that people don't have the time to sit down for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour in front of a computer screen at the same time on a particular day, or they say they will, and then something comes up and they have to rush off and do something else. And while they can watch it, because it's recorded afterwards, it doesn't have quite the same impact. So what we're thinking about doing now is developing a series of podcasts, which will be much shorter, like 15 minutes or so, on a range of different subjects, again with experts expounding, and to offer those as a mobile opportunity for people. Got this right? Pauline's nodding, I think. She's thinking, I have to do this? But to offer that as an extension of the webinar idea, right? To make it more modern. And what's interesting, that the training is the most valued attribute by employees in our industry, which is bizarre. But it's the least invested in by the management. It really is way down the list of investment things. So I think it can make a significant difference. What we do with Inspire is create added value by helping all the stakeholders to benefit from this. So if you're an employee, you get personalized learning because you go on in your own time, when you want. You can stop and start as you wish. You can see exactly where you are in a process. You can assess your performance and your progress as you go through. For management, e-learning actually equals job satisfaction. People who are trained are much more likely to stay with the company, are much more likely to be happy at work, and of course are much more likely to be useful and productive because they're learning things as they go along. For the provider, i.e. us, it's actually cost effective once you've made the initial investment because you have fixed costs which you have to invest at the beginning. But after that, if it's successful, of course, your fixed costs don't repeat themselves every year. You've made the basic investment, and all you have to do is keep that up to date. So for us, it's quite a cost-effective way to train. And for the industry, there's no doubt that better trained staff create better work. And the IPA did some very interesting research into the results of companies that do continual professional development, those that don't. And it showed absolutely clearly that the agencies that invested in training regularly had higher staff retention, had higher staff satisfaction levels, they had higher profitability, and they retained their clients for longer. So 4 things that agencies worry about a lot, and yet even that doesn't convince them to up their budgets and to put money into training. So we are struggling along, and I think we're making progress. We grow every year. And we will keep improving our offer. But I think that e-learning is absolutely critical for associations. I think it's a really good way to deliver information and training to your members.